In this video here today, I want to talk about my experience with spousal resident sponsorship for Hong Kong and Canada. So a few weeks ago, I got a spousal residence for my wife for Hong Kong. It took 5 business days to get approved, and it was an online process. Upload all my documents, no questions asked, and yeah, so my wife got residence, spousal residence for Hong Kong now when she's a mainland Chinese citizen. But my experience with Canada is just absolutely terrible. The main problem when it comes to spousal residency applications in terms of Canada is that the customer service is terrible, the application forms are terrible, and it also costs a ton of money depending on how you look at it. It cost me 10 years ago, I applied for my wife to get a permanent resident of Canada status. This was 10 years ago, and it cost me $3,000 to $4,000, not including travel expenses, and 2 failed visa applications as a visitor. So I had to just do this permanent residency thing. It was a nightmare. It's just messed up. So basically I had to do this complicated form. It's a complicated process. So there's a application package for me that I have to apply to become a sponsor, and I had to send that over to somewhere in Ontario when I was in Hong Kong. It cost me $100 something Canadian dollars by courier, send over my application, and it was like another $500 for the application fee to be a sponsor. And on my wife's side, there was another package that we had to fill out, and there was another $500 application fee, and that one had to get submitted to the Canadian consulate in Hong Kong. And the worst part is I had to get this like proof from Canada that I'm not previously married or divorced or whatever, and I emailed and asked the Canadian consulate in Hong Kong if I can make this declaration and at the consulate in Hong Kong, and they said no. So I had to travel by train and waste the whole day to travel to the Canadian consulate in Guangzhou or Guangzhou to declare that I'm not divorced and never married before. And the reason for that, it was because they said, oh, my wife's a mainland Chinese citizen, not a Hong Kong resident, so I have to get everything done at the Canadian consulate in in mainland China. But then the interview for both of us was at the Canadian consulate in Hong Kong. This is just getting deranged. So I had to travel to the Canadian consulate in Guangzhou, mainland China, to declare that I was never married and I was not divorced and whatever, because my wife's a mainland Chinese citizen. Gotta get it done in the same jurisdiction that she lives in and is a citizen of. But then in the end, the interview where they interview me and my wife was at the Canadian consulate in Hong Kong. That's just deranged and dumb. And since my wife's English isn't that good, I had to the Canadian consulate in Hong Kong gave me a list with 5 translation companies in Hong Kong, and I had to pick one of them, and it cost me 1,000 Canadian dollars for somebody from one of these companies to come translate for my wife during the interview. So it's like $500 for the sponsorship application that I have to submit in Mississauga, send by courier $100. That's $600. My wife had to pay $500. I had to pay $500 for my wife's application for permanent residency. Another 1,000 Canadian dollars for translation, in-person translation during the interview. So that's already $2,000, and it cost me another 400 Canadian dollars to have my wife's mainland Chinese criminal record translated. So I'd pay $400 to another translator in Hong Kong who would translate the criminal record, and pay another fee to the Hong Kong Home Affairs Department to certify that it's real and this translator in Hong Kong is real. And just all these miscellaneous fees. And after she was approved, I had to pay another $400 or $500 fee to have this permanent resident visa sticker label and put into a Chinese passport by the Canadian consulate in Hong Kong. So it's already $3,000 or $4,000 just for sponsorship, and this is not including travel expenses to Guangzhou. And if I lived in Canada at the time, it's not including travel expenses. And this is just the whole process deranged. They asked for my address 4 times on my application form to be a sponsor, and they asked another 4 times this and that on the applicant, which is my wife's application for permanent residency through the spousal sponsorship program. This is just the range. In Hong Kong, it cost me $0. Basically cost me, it's free, basically free, and it only took 5 business days, and it was an online process. But in Canada, it's all deranged. I had to get this and that certified, this and that translated. Every time it cost me a few $100s to do that. Oh, and medical exam. There was a medical exam that might have to do for another 500 Canadian dollars. And they gave me a list. You could either go to some hospitals or university hospitals in mainland China, or go to this private clinic, big private clinic in Hong Kong, and that cost me like another $400 or $500. So it's basically 4,000 Canadian dollars to sponsor, to get my wife permanent resident of Canada status through spousal sponsorship. But in Hong Kong, it cost me $0. This is just the range. And this was 10 years ago. I was a young man, and I just felt let down by Canada. Hong Kong and mainland China has been treating me much better. These people, Western countries like Canada, are just demo crazy countries. It's shambolic democracy, it's demo crazy system, demo crazy ideology based on racism. Why would they do all of this on people? I was a young man 10 years ago, and $3,000 to $4,000 a lot of money, and still is right now for most people. Unless you're like a billionaire or something, everything's just about money when it comes to Canada. They rob you blind. This is just wrong, people. And when I got residence in mainland China through spousal family reunion, and it was no questions asked. It was just a civil administrative process, and it didn't cost anywhere close to $3,000 or $4,000 Canadian dollars. There was just a small fee of 200 Canadian dollars for 5 years. And it's just deranged what Canada is doing and what Western countries are doing. I heard the UK, there is a minimum income requirement. If your salary or your business income isn't high enough, you can't get your foreign spouse. You can't do spousal or family reunion in the UK. This is just deranged, people. There's no freedom in Western countries.